Hello and welcome to Sweetcast. I'm Clint. We need to talk about Eric Esquivel, and I really think that he just, this is the nail in the coffin. His career as a comic book writer and probably elsewhere is over. So first, a really quick update on the comic book that I am writing, Downcast. Right now, I am working on getting a cover together. I've got an artist, and I want to make sure that this cover looks fantastic. I'm looking through colorists right now, looking through portfolios and trying to get the right colorist, and I want this to look just beautiful. So I'll keep you up to date on that. I'm super excited though. So Eric Esquivel. Now, the theme of this statement here is, if you're unaware first, he has been accused of sexual misconduct by several different women, and in some cases, some of the accusations were, at the time, I guess, they were underaged. So those are some pretty strong accusations. I'm going to call them, this is an alleged activity still, because none of this has gone to court. However, he makes some pretty damning admissions here. Nothing that I would consider criminal. However, if this went to court, who knows how it would be read, but I don't think this was a good idea at all. So in a nutshell, he's going to blame it on the culture and on toxic masculinity, in fewer words, but that's really where he's going with this. So he's trying to maintain and sort of thread this needle by maintaining his strict adherence to social justice and that ideology, while at the same time making himself seem like some kind of redeemable figure in all of this, and that he can change and become better. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know of any far left nut jobs, and for that matter, any publishers that are going to care one bit about this apology. In fact, I only think it makes his position worse. Okay, I'm going to try to read through this and be quick about it. He says, well-meaning entities in my life have discouraged me from saying anything in public. I've been told that the best strategy right now is to hold tight until this all blows over, but I don't want this to blow over, either in my own life or in culture at large. Okay, so he's linking his own life to culture at large, and you'll see that becoming a theme throughout this whole admission. What I want is to apologize, to serve as a cautionary tale to others, and to change. This is not going to work. I think that he summarizes what he's hoping for pretty well here. It's not going to happen. Hearing my past behavior described to me this week has been the most surreal experience in my life. My perception of events, relationships, and personal dynamics are so far removed from the way they've been recounted. My knee-jerk reaction is to deny them outright. Now, I'm going to give him just a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here, and that is, I think it is absolutely possible for two people to be in a relationship and one person sees it as maybe through rose-colored glasses, and the other person sees it as some kind of oppressive relationship. I think that's totally possible. I do think it's kind of a stretch, though, for somebody to get like sexual assault and sexual misconduct out of that relationship. But what I know, I've never been in any promiscuous relationships like that. I guess I'm kind of a boring guy, but it's really kept my life simple, and I'm thankful that I'm never going to hear anything like this happen to me. So his knee-jerk reaction was to deny them outright, both publicly and to myself. But the source of these accusations are women who I not only respect, but who I genuinely love. Okay, so I'm going to take this genuinely love with a grain of salt, because the definition of love to me, it's not somebody that you're promiscuous with. It's not somebody else's girlfriend or somebody else's wife, and you're just sort of actively, getting around with as many people as you possibly can. That's not love. And he goes on to explain a little bit more about that later, and I hope that'll make my point even stronger. These are people whose presence in my life has changed me for the better, and who I am infinitely grateful to have known. People who I have kept in intimate contact with since the years we've been apart. If you've been in intimate contact with them for years since you've been apart, I find it hard, and this isn't, I'm not going to pick a side for this particular thing. These are still allegations, but it doesn't make sense to me how you can be in intimate contact with somebody but the whole time they're thinking you're a rapist, and the whole time you have no idea that they think you're a rapist. This doesn't make any sense. And he goes on and says that. So it doesn't make any sense that they'd simply be making things up. they have nothing to gain and everything to lose. Okay, so this is the Me Too rhetoric we see coming out, that women have absolutely nothing to gain from an allegation. Sure, I mean, false allegations, there could be lots to gain. Who knows? And if they're, truthful allegations, you'd think that he would have a better idea. And he does go on to say, the odds suggest that I have a problem, or rather, I am a problem. Wow. This is where I kind of feel bad for him, because he's bought into this ideology so deeply that he's willing to sacrifice himself in his position in order to somehow make the ideology correct. This sounds like an admission of guilt. It really does. If you go down and read the rest, he's going to still deny like any illegal activities, but he's really giving them credence, like he's thought about it and he's just not sure anymore. This is not good, because his accusers are very sure. And I still don't think any of this will actually go to court, and there won't be any legal ramifications. However, this has massive ramifications for his career. He's not going to be working anywhere anytime soon. And honestly, that's something I've been at least peripheral aware of for some time. Yikes. Strengthens this admission of guilt. Everything I've ever written has been about a young man operating at a deficit because he grew up without a father, trying to his darndest to figure out what it means to be a man. And that's because I was pulling from my own experience. I grew up without any male role models, so I looked to pop culture for instruction. A lot of what I learned was useful. The sobriety I reverse engineered from Batman. The compassion for animals I aped from Aquaman. Apt? I don't know, a typo maybe? Okay, this is where he starts to sort of fill in the father figure role was pop culture. I deny this idea. This is stupid. Maybe pop culture affects people a little bit, but you most certainly had friends. You most certainly had uncles or neighbors or just people that you were around. And generally people learn from other people far more than they're going to learn from a TV or from reading comics. This is the same silly argument that you hear about video games causing mass shootings. Everybody that watches Batman, or as he goes on here to say James Bond, or the Fonz, or Gene Simmons, they're not sexually conducting themselves in an awful way. That this is something unique to Eric, and I'm sure there are many other creeps out there too. But I really think the vast majority of people, men who participate in pop culture, are good and decent people just trying to do the best they can. So do not lump in all men with this kind of thing. He says, to be clear, I'm not blaming pop culture for my actions. You just did, actually. You just made that as an excuse. If I didn't grow up behind a library, I would have found other archetypes to emulate, possibly even worse ones. Yeah, or it had to do with the people around you, or had to do with your personal decisions. There's so much more to this, and it has so little to do with entertainment and media. I mean, it's crazy. It's such a cop-out. I was, and continue to be, insecure about my masculinity. And so the words he keeps bringing up are masculinity and toxic. He hadn't actually used them together as toxic masculinity, but this is obviously where this is all going. He's reading straight out of gender studies playbook. In my 20s, I tried to combat that by doing everything I could to muster up external validation, getting into fistfights, pursuing the spotlight, and behaving extraordinarily promiscuously, especially with other men's wives and girlfriends. Yuck, that is disgusting. I realize that there's no law against that, but it's still disgusting. And that has far less to do with masculinity and far less to do with pop culture than being a disgusting person. It kills me that I have to say this, but I never engaged with anyone who was unwilling. So we finally got to his denial of the criminal allegations. At this point, I realize, I mean, if he said that he had raped somebody, I mean, he's there. I don't know what would happen legally after that, but that's a confession. But what he basically did is he confessed before the Church of Social Justice, and that's all they wanted. They got what they wanted. He's hoping that this is going to somehow make amends and make things better. I think this has just made things worse. His career is truly over. I became conscious of my own toxic behavior about 2 years ago after a close female friend suggested that I examine myself from that perspective. Okay, so this could be in any college class where they talk about toxic masculinity. Is that what he's talking about? And he's gonna sort of lump every man into this problem. Like this is something that all men struggle with. You know, once the Me Too movement started, and I always heard people say, oh, this is so common. It's not just Hollywood, it's everywhere. Yeah, there are creeps all around, but the vast majority of men are good and decent people that like women and want to have relationships and want to have families and just a positive experience with people around them. Don't make this about everybody else. This is about you. I've attempted to change the way I've lived since then. I volunteered at various Okay, so somehow the volunteer work that he's done is going to somehow make up for it. Again, not in the eyes of the people he's trying to impress. It's not going to matter. But I never reached out to women from my past to make sure that I hadn't unknowingly harmed them. Okay, and so the problem here is that he's been reaching out. He said he was intimately in contact with them, and the topic never came up. Sexual misconduct. I mean, I find this strange, and maybe it is because I've never been in this kind of situation. To me, it just, I don't know, like it doesn't come natural to want to be a creep and creep on people. It's weird. And he says he wants to know how he can be of use to culture going forward. So he is indeed blaming this on culture, and this is going to be about toxic masculinity, and he's hoping that maybe he can teach the rest of us men the right way to act. Well, the rest of us aren't acting this way. This is the way that you have been acting. And he says, is it by encouraging other men to examine themselves and their behavior? So this sort of thing is he's presenting two different scenarios, and he's hoping that everybody's going to pick the first one. So he's saying helping other men examine their behaviors and documenting his sex addiction recovery in public. So basically the first option is some kind of public speaker, some kind of public example where he can be, the guiding light for the rest of us toxic men. And the second one is by, him just disappearing forever and no one will ever see him again. He says, honestly, I hope it's that last one. I disagree. I think he's really hoping it's the first one. He laid out some plan that he could go with so that he could, repent before the crazies. And he's sort of using reverse psychology. Like the easy thing would be for me to just go away and be unemployed and never work in comics again and have everyone hate me for the rest of my life. That would be the easy way. No, of course he wants the first example. That's his way back in. That's his way to, even just be around people. That's his way for redemption. He says the second way, though, is the easy way out to disappear forever. And as he mentioned, that he's a coward. Oh, brother, this is not helping your case. He suspects that he hasn't figured it out yet. So basically, he wants to plan. He's going to let this blow over now. I think that's probably the last we'll hear from him for a little while. But he's going to make some stride at some point to try and poke his head back out of the abyss and try and recover for his sins. Honestly, I can't see this happening. Has it ever happened? You just admitted to some pretty awful things. No, they're not illegal, but as far as big publishers are concerned, they can find other writers. They don't need you. You're replaceable, really. And at this point, you'd be a liability. So I don't know. It made me sad, kind of. At the same time, I'm like, man, it's a problem of his making, not just directly, but also the ideology that he's following. This is a problem that they've made as well. So let me know what you think in the comments below about this whole fiasco. Please give me a like and subscribe because those two things really help me out a lot. We're going to get to 2,000 subscribers really soon. And it's nice every time I get a new subscriber. I love hearing from you. I actually love hearing from people on Twitter too. So if you want to follow me, I'm at CastSweet, I'd love to hear from you. It's fun. I'd rather hear from people I like than people that are irritating. So thank you so much. I will see you next time.